All right, so let's move on with chapter 3. We've got Kapitel 3.3 und 3.4. We're going to do plural of nouns and end nouns. End nouns are a special type of noun that we're going to do in this unit. But first, let's go through the exercises from the end of the last unit with the genitive. So we're going to translate these genitive constructions in these sentences. So, der Titel des Buches ist Wilhelm Meister. So the genitive is des Buches, and that would be of the book. So the title of the book is Wilhelm Meister. You could also say the book's title is Wilhelm Meister. That's, of course, Goethe. Nummer 2. Ich besuche die Freundin des Bruders. I visit the girlfriend of the brother, or I'm visiting the brother's girlfriend, or could just be friend, depending on context. But des Bruders is of the brother, right? And then so it's die Freundin des Bruders, the girlfriend of the brother. Ich kenne den Freund der Professorin nicht would be, I don't know the boyfriend of the professor, or maybe a little more naturally, I don't know the professor's boyfriend, or could just be friend. But often, usually, it's boyfriend if it's expressed as like the ownership, right? So what would happen is you say eine Freundin versus mein Freund. Sounds like my boyfriend, but ein Freund is like a friend. Yeah. So it could be either. Nummer 4. Gehst du auf die Party des Mitbewohners? So our genitive construction is des Mitbewohners. And that would be, are you going to the party of the roommate? Or maybe a little more naturally, are you going to the roommate's party? Whatever, the roommate who's been established in the conversation already. Nummer 5. Der Geburtstag des Großvaters ist der 11. April. So we've got the Nummer 5. Der Geburtstag des Großvaters ist der 11. April. So der Geburtstag is the birthday. And then des Großvaters is of the grandfather, or the grandfather's birthday. Yeah, it's masculine, of course. And we've got the extra S on there as well. Okay, so now we have some questions and answers with genitives. Nummer 1. Wessen Fahrrad ist das? Whose bike is that? And then we go over to the answer. Das ist das Fahrrad meines Bruders. That's my brother's bike, the bike of my brother, meines Bruders. And then we have wessen Buch ist das? Whose book is that? And then das ist das Buch meines Vaters. This is that's my father's book, the book of my father. Nummer 3. Wessen Uhr ist das? Das ist die Uhr deiner Tante. So whose clock or watch is that? Das ist die Uhr deiner Tante. So I'm very excited for when we get to the possessives, because it's hard to do things without possessives. But you'll notice they have the same endings as einer, deiner, eines, meines. So just for now, you can treat the possessives like indefinite articles. Wessen Pullover ist das? Whose sweater is that? Das ist der Pullover meiner Freundin. That's my girlfriend's sweater, the sweater of my girlfriend. So you see that's the feminine, einer Freundin with the R at the end. Wessen Auto ist das? Whose car is that? Das ist das Auto eines Freundes. That's a friend's car. That's the car of a friend. Yeah, so if you wanted to make it very clear that someone's not your boyfriend, then you would say a friend, not my friend. But you could also say my friend if it's clear already that it's not the boyfriend. Mein Freund is also fine. But without context, you would probably go for ein instead of mine. Okay, Nummer 6. Wessen Handy ist das? Whose cell phone is that? Das ist das Handy der Lehrerin. Der, with a feminine noun, of course, indicates the genitive. That's the teacher's cell phone, the phone of the teacher, feminine. Nummer 7. Wessen Wohnwagen ist das? Whose motorhome is that? Das ist der Wohnwagen meiner Eltern. You see, it has the same ending as the der. Der Wohnwagen der Eltern meiner Eltern, of my parents. Nummer 8. Wessen Kind ist das? Whose kid is this? Or whose child is this? And then, das ist das Kind des Mannes dort drüben. This is you say, this is the kid of the man over there, or this is the man over there's kid. This first one is probably not very good, but the second one is it's a little hard to express in English. But that's the kid of the man over there. Kid belongs to the man. You might like rephrase it entirely in English, but these are more or less the translation. Das Kind des Mannes, the child of the man, over there, dort drüben. Okay, so now we're going to look at some plurals. We looked at plurals already, but we're going to review how some plurals are made. Hopefully, as you look up words in the dictionary, you will note the plural endings so that you're familiar enough to not make mistakes when you're trying to translate. It's pretty common error when translating to use with singular when it should be the plural or vice versa. So you have to be really careful about those endings, and they're a little unpredictable, right? There's not like one way to do it. With every noun, you have to really learn what its plural is. So, Kapitel 1, you already learned the most important rule for determining if the subject is singular or plural. The subject and verb always agree in number, so that means the verb conjugation helps you know what whether your subject is plural or singular. That's why it's important to be able to recognize the verb conjugations, right? Because if you see sie wohnt, that means she lives with the T ending. But if you see sie wohnen, that's either they live or you formal live. So those endings will tell you a lot about whether the subject is singular or plural. So Herr Professor, schreiben Sie einen Artikel über Galilei oder über Brecht. So it's capitalized here, so it's very clear that it's formal you. And then you can also recognize a plural in the dative construction because of the double N configuration. So the article ends in N, and then the noun, if phonetically possible, that was, we don't have the dative here, but you have the dative chart where it was like den Kindern. That means that it has to be plural. And then plural genitive nouns have no ending, so nothing's going to happen there. And then accusative, you just have to know you have to recognize the ending, right? Plurals are indicated with the symbol given below in the right-hand column. And then you note the plural form, and then you get more accurate reading and efficient translation. So the thing is, a lot of masculine nouns, especially this ER ending, it is no change on. So der Verfasser is the author, and then to make it plural, you just change the article to die Verfasser. But it has been changed into it is plural here, but you don't add anything. It's just the article. So the dictionary would list it as a dash, like no change. And then it's also pretty common for masculine nouns to add an umlaut to one of the vowels to make the plural. So Diamante becomes Dimente. So of course you change the article for the plural, and then you add the umlaut. And so the dictionary would list like a floating umlaut to indicate that. Yeah. So we can look at some of these. This is similar to one of the other slides we looked at with some plural endings. We got some more. Der Versuch, this one does add an E added, and then that's what it would look like in the dictionary. Der Sohn, it gets a umlaut and an E as well. So there's the umlaut and then the E. And so you pronounce it very differently. See the floating umlaut and then the E. So der Sohn versus die Söhne, O, Ö, die Söhne. So it's like quite a different sound. Der Mann becomes die Männer. So now we get an umlaut plus the ER, and it's just a totally different combination. We got the umlaut and the ER. That's how it would be listed in the dictionary. Das Bild, die Bilder, then just the ER. This is a pretty common ending on a neuter noun, the ER. Die Flasche, die Flaschen, almost. So if you have a noun that ends in just E, they're almost always feminine. Then most of the time, the plural will be to add the N. So those are the easy ones. If you see just the E, then it'll be the N ending. And then you end up with the E end. And then das Auto, if it's a foreign loanword, if it's a word of foreign origin, a loanword, then sometimes it's just the S. Yeah. And then die Frau becomes die Frauen, takes an en. So lots of different combinations. Yeah, and then we have this one, das Buch, and then you would, this is how it would look in dictionary with the umlaut, er. So that's how you'd form it. Das Buch, die Bücher, the book, the books. It's a meaning book. Die Karte, so here's a feminine and it ends in e, and almost always the pattern is going to be at the end. So die Karte, and then it turns into die Karten, plural. Die Vorlesung, and then whenever so these suffixes are actually quite useful. We learned some of these suffixes where this ung suffix it tips you off to that it's always going to be feminine. And also it tips you off to what the ending is going to be. So whenever the suffix is ung, the ending is going to be the same, the en. So die Vorlesungen, which is class or lecture. Das Seminar, we'll just take the e, so you end up with das Seminar in the singular, die Seminare in the plural. Der Kurs, the course, as in class, takes just the e, same as Seminar. So der Kurs, die Kurse. Das Semester, so here we have this er ending, and that often blocks any other plural ending from happening. So we don't add anything, just the dash, which means all you have to do is change the article from das to die, das Semester, die Semester. So this is the semester, the semesters, even though we don't see any ending there. It's secretly in the plural. Der Student, this one takes en. Der Student becomes die Studentin. And then whenever there's ent ending, that's going to happen. And then this in ending for the feminine equivalents of a lot of these roles and professions and things. This will then take the in ending. So Studentin, and then it always has the same innen. So die Studentin, female student. Die Studentinnen, female students. So this is often quite confusing in the beginning because you have these four different der Student, die Studentin, die Studentin, die Studentinnen. So you just have to get comfortable with those. But I think sometimes people want this one to be the feminine or something, but that's a plural masculine. Yeah. Okay, so the Universität, that anytime the tate ending happens, it's going to be the en suffix to make the plural. Die Universität, and then die Universitäten. Okay, so you'll get more familiar with those as you practice more. Here is interesting types of nouns that do unexpected things. So der Bär is one of those. There's a picture that I took of a bear in Bern. Bern has bears running around. There's a whole story behind it. So in Bern gibt es einen Bärenpark. Das ist der Bär. So that seems easy enough. Das ist der Bär. This is the bear. Or you could say, das ist ein Bär. These are both nominative, right? It's a predicate noun. Der Bär, nominative masculine. Ein Bär, nominative masculine. Simple enough. But now if we're going to use the accusative, it will say, ich sehe einen Bären. Now it's the direct object. And so einen, that's what you would expect. Einen, right? Masculine accusative. But now what's happening is we have an en here that wasn't on any of these nominative forms. And why would the accusative doesn't normally add endings like this? So it's very strange, right? The genitive does, we just learned, but the accusative doesn't change the noun, except for in these special nouns. They're called en nomen or en nouns, or they're sometimes called weak masculine nouns. Weak in grammar, it means they follow a certain rule. They're like they're followers instead of like leaders, you could say. So they're just called normally just called en nouns, en nomen. So der Student heißt Klaus. So der Student, that's in the nominative, seems normal, right? But what if we say, ich kenne den Studenten, I know the student. And so what's happening here is we put this in the accusative, and now it looks plural, because remember how we had Der Student becomes die Studentin in the plural. That's actually the plural form. But what's happening here is it's not in the plural here. It's still just the student. It's got this ending because it's in the accusative, and it belongs to a special class of N nouns. So let's look at some more. Der Name ist Schmidt. The name is Schmidt, right? Schreiben Sie bitte den Namen. Please write the name. And now we've got an extra N on the Name. Normally it wouldn't be there, right? We put it into the accusative, and now there's an N. And it looks like maybe it became plural, but it didn't become plural. It's still just in the singular. What happened is it went into the accusative. Der Journalist schreibt einen Bericht. Der is masculine, nominative, the journalist. Then we have Ich kenne den Journalisten, and it looks like it's become plural. That would be the plural ending. But it's not. It's just in the accusative. It's still singular over here. I know the journalist. So these nouns look plural, but they are not plural. They add an N or an EN because they are N nouns, and that's what N nouns do in the accusative, the dative, and the genitive. So all the other cases except for the nominative, they have this extra ending. So you just have to sort of memorize which nouns do this, which nouns are N nouns. It's a list that is possible to memorize. It's not that many, but it's the default is of course to not do this, but then there are some that do this. So let's try. Der Bär ist braun. That's the nominative, right? Der Bär ist braun. That's normal. But what if we say, siehst du den Bären? Do you see the bear? And now it's accusative. So we've done the normal accusative thing with the article. And then we've also added this, den Bären. But we can compare how it looks in the plural because die Bären sind schwarz. Now we've got two bears over here. The bears are black. Die Bären sind schwarz. And it's in the nominative, but it's got its plural ending. Or we could say, siehst du die Bären? Do you see the bears? And it's in the accusative now, but since we're in the plural, like that ending was already there. It's in plural, so of course it's going to have the plural ending, right? So it's really only when you're in a singular version where it looks plural, right? So these are actually listed in the Duden. The Duden is the standard German dictionary. So dictionary that is with German words and German definitions, like a normal dictionary. And so this is from that dictionary. And one of the things they list is tables for special N nouns, and it gives you the declensions here. So der Automat means a machine, or like a vending machine or a ATM or something. So der Automat is just singular and nominative. Der Automat, right? So see the ending. But then every single other case, genitive, dative, accusative, and then the plurals, obviously, this is the normal plural, die Automaten. But even in the singular, all the other cases have this extra en ending. So that's something to really look out for because it looks like it's plural, but it's really singular and just not in the nominative. So we can try, this is der Zug, and this is not one of the N nouns. This is just to contrast. So der Zug is totally normal noun. It's not doing this weird N thing. It's just being a masculine noun. So der Zug, nominative. And then des Zuges, we just learned, you can do either. That's the des. And then den Zug, den Zug. So we're changing our articles like we learned to do. And then we're not adding anything to the end because that's what we learned to do, right? It would be like dem Mann, den Mann, same as Mann. And the plural has, you add an umlaut and an e. And then with the dative plural, you add the n as well that we learned. Yeah. So this is normal, not an n noun, just a normal noun. But Elefant does belong to the N noun category, so it is going to take endings where other nouns would not. So der Elefant is nominative, singular. But then, as soon as we get into our genitive, dative, accusative, we're going to have the en. Des Elefanten, of the elephant. Dem Elefanten, to or for the elephant. And then den Elefanten, using the elephant as a direct object. And then the plural, en, is the ending for all the plurals. It's always going to have that if it's plural. So, end noun is used to talk about masculine nouns that take an e or an en, or take an n or an en ending in the plural as well as the singular in all cases, but the nominative. The uninflected form of the end noun is only a subject or a predicate noun. So all the other instances, you're going to want that extra n or en. So let's look at some more examples. Der Student ist ein guter Mensch. We've got der Student. Nominative, singular subject, right? There it is. So it's just normal, as you would expect. Der Student, there's no ending on here, der Student. But now we're going to make it plural. We're still in the nominative though, but we're going to make the plural. And when you look up Student in the dictionary, it tells you en is the plural you're going to want for that. So die Studentin. Now we have a nominative plural subject. Die Studenten sind gute Menschen. Also, this is the ending for Mensch, Menschen. Okay. Wir suchen einen guten Menschen. Now, Mensch is also one of these words. It's an end noun. So it's still singular, right? Even though the form is identical to the plural. This is plural and this is singular. So how do you tell the difference? Well, einen is the masculine singular accusative article. So you have to go more off of the way the article looks, not the way that the ending looks, because this will tell you masculine singular. It's in the accusative, right? We look for a good person. Wir suchen gute Studenten. Now you can tell that it's plural because there's no article on here, and it's like we are looking for good students. So, plurals sometimes leave off the article. That's you can tell it's plural because of that. Wir helfen dem guten Menschen. Now, this dem really tips you off to the fact that it's dative. It has to be dated with dem, right? So it's dative singular, and this en ending is happening because Mensch is an end noun, and it's in the dative, which is not the nominative, right? So it's still in the singular. We are helping the good person, singular person. Wir helfen den Studenten. Now, you see this en ending, and that's really not going to help you much. It's in the dative plural, and you can tell because of the den, but this sentence, it's quite tricky, this sentence. Wir helfen den Studenten. We learned already that helfen has to use a dative object. So it looks like this could be accusative masculine, but if you know already that helfen is always going to trigger the dative after, then you know that this is plural. Yeah. Was ist der Name dieses Menschen? So even with the genitive, you would normally expect an S situation at the end of after the genitive, but with the end nouns, they don't take that S. Like des Mannes, you're going to do des Menschen instead. So you don't repeat that S, you do the N instead. Was sind die Namen dieser Studenten? So now it would be like der Studenten. We're in the genitive plural. And the reason this en is here is because it's plural, and so it's already plural. So it would have a en anyway. Okay, so the inflected end noun may look plural, so it is important to pay attention to the inflected article in the function and sentence, as well as to the verb. So when you encounter an end noun, it will be listed that way in, hopefully, when the back of this book, it lists it that way, and then I think most dictionaries would list it as well. So that way you know to put it into your list of words are end nouns. So Mensch, Student. Yeah, Mensch is technically it's a grammatically masculine, but it really means human. It doesn't have gender. It's not like saying man, right? Most dictionaries list the masculine noun like Mensch as follows. So you have Mensch, tells you it's masculine, and these ens are referring. One of these refers to the plural. This tells you what the plural is, and then the other one tells you how to make the n noun situation happen. So one of them would be on the singulars, right? This would be on the plurals, and this would be on the singulars. Okay, so here we have some that you can put into your list. This is not all of them. I have some more after, but some of these are more common than others. Obviously, der Mensch is super common, and der Student is quite common. But der Affe is, common depending on your line of work. So der Affe is an noun. So you would be like, if you said like something where the ape or the monkey is the direct object, it would be den Affen. Bär, we had a bunch of examples with Bär, den Bären. Bauer, meaning farmer. This is a really interesting one because most of them with the ER don't do this, but Bauer does. Elefant, we had that in the dictionary earlier. Fürst means prince or ruler, and that takes it. So Hase, hare or rabbit, Herr, Mr. or the gentleman. Intendant, any time they end in dan, ant or ist, all those ist. There's like Sozialist. All of these are going to have the same in noun situation. Intendant, Journalist, Komponist. Yeah. Löwe means lion. That takes it. Sometimes these masculine nouns that end in E do like der Name, der Löwe. It's both the end nouns. And then der Nachbar does it. Philosoph does it. Präsident. Anything with the ent is going to do it. Student, Präsident, same thing. Prinz does it. And then Repräsentant, it's the same as Intendant. Anything ending in ant will do it. So I have some more examples here. So you have like the basic form plus the n, right? So der Junge is the boy, but then den Jungen in the accusative, or dem Jungen in the dative, des Jungen in the genitive, and then the plural die Jungen, and the reason it has the n there is because it's plural, not because of this, right? And then der Kunde is the customer, so it's going to get those n's all the way across. Der Löwe is the lion, gets all the n's. Der Herr, so this one is you just add the n, den Herrn, dem Herrn, des Herrn. This one's quite common, especially when you're addressing people, right? Der Bauer, here we have the farmer again. And then any nationalities that ends in the E like that, the Danish person, the Dane, I suppose. Can you say that in English? Der Dane, the Danish person, or the Dane. And then die Dänen, or Dänen. So if it's like you want to say, I know the Danish man, it would be ich kenne den Dänen with the N on there. Der Brite is a British man. Okay, but of course the feminines would have the in at the end, so it'd be a totally different situation for like a woman from Denmark. Okay, so der Mensch does it. It takes the en, very important one to know, and then der Bär, en. And then here are some interesting ones. Der Buchstabe means a letter, like the letter of the alphabet. Der Name, very common, important one to know. But then it takes the n and the s in the genitive. So these ones are listed together because the genitive takes the n and the s, not just the n. Der Friede is peace, like War and Peace. Der Gedanke is a thought, pretty common word. Der Glaube is faith or belief. And then das Herz, this is a really strange one because it's these are all the ones we've been talking about, they're all masculine. But das Herz is neuter. And it can optionally take, it doesn't have to, like here it doesn't, but it's sort of a poetic thing to have it here, but it does happen where it actually gets the en. But that's the only non-masculine noun that I know of that can sometimes take this, but it's optional for that one. And then here is, so this is keine Nomen. These that end in er or or are not in nouns. So der Fahrer is the preacher, and den Fahrer, see, there's no end. It's just a normal noun. It's not doing the thing. Dem Fahrer, it's not doing the extra n. So it's just to, because you might think that this would do it, but it doesn't. And der Doktor, it doesn't do it. So the only one with the ER that does it is actually the Bauer here. So that's the one to watch out for. But otherwise, don't worry about it with the ER and the OR ending. Okay, so we've got a little list here again. Bauer, Fotograf, a photographer. Friede, peace, Gedanke, thought, Herr, Mr., Herr, Journalist, Junge. Kollege is a very useful one to know. A colleague or co-worker. So you could say like mit dem Kollegen, or with the colleague, and it would be the N. Ich habe einen Kollegen. I have a colleague. Ich habe einen Kollegen. Yeah. Kunde is customer. Mensch, Nachbar, all these same ones. So anytime it ends in ist. Neffe is nephew. So you'd say ich habe einen Neffen. I have a nephew. Pilot, Polizist, Präsident, Soldat, all these, yeah, Tourists, Vorname. Yeah, anytime you have like this just means first name. So anytime you have a compound noun, if the last one is one of these nouns, then obviously it's going to take the ending because that's the end. So we have some more examples. Kennen Sie den Journalisten dort? So the nominative would be der Journalist, but the accusative, den Journalisten. Kennen Sie den Experten dort? The nominative is der Experte, but now we're in the accusative and we add the N. Den Experten. Ich gebe dem Kunden das Formular. I give the client the form. And so here you can see we're actually in the dative. We've changed our article to be in the dative, and also we've added the N, even though it's still singular. Dem Kunden. Then, das ist der Aufsatz des Studenten. This is the essay of the student. Nominative would be der Student. The genitive is des Studenten. So here it's like very tricky. It really wants to trick you into thinking that this is plural, but it's not. The reason you know it's not is because des is only for the singular. Otherwise, it would be der Studenten, because that's the article you would need for the genitive plural. But this is the genitive, singular masculine. Wurde als Idealistin gesehen. This is a sentence from an article that I translated as a graduate student, and I translated it wrong, and I will never forget. It was in one of the first sentences of this article, and wurde gesehen is like he was seen, and I translated it as idealists with an S on it, and I don't know why. Like I put it in plural because I saw that en ending, and it came back like, no, that's singular, and I realized I had to go back and learn this. It was bad. So I'll never forget this particular Idealistin situation. So the nominative is der Idealist, and then the accusative has that en, but it's still singular. You don't make it plural. Ich treffe den Fotografen. Here we have the accusative, den Fotografen, whereas the nominative would be der Fotograf. So singular, the photographer. Okay, so we have an exercise to help you practice that. The following sentences contain N nouns, so all of these nouns in question are going to be N nouns. There's no like regular masculine nouns in these sets, just the N nouns. So they will try to trick you into thinking they're plural, but they're actually singular. So go ahead and translate these, and then I will see you in the next video. Vielen Dank. Tschüss. Bis bald.